Welcome everyone to this new video that I'm doing on this new approach that I'm having about geopolitics. So just to remind everyone, the Cross Connect 24, so my channel serves as a valuable platform dedicated to sharing knowledge and fostering meaningful connection between the French and English speaking communities. It is not focused on generating revenues, but rather than on creating a space where information, insights, and understanding can flow freely across language and cultural boundaries. This approach prioritizes the sharing of knowledge and the building of bridges between diverse audiences, emphasizing the importance of education and dialogue over commercial interest. Okay, so this is why, the goal of this channel is not to make revenue, but is to share interesting, element. So this channel actually highlights that the true value lies in exchanging ideas and empowering communities rather than focusing on monetization. Okay, so I came across an interesting interview between Jacques Baud and this French-speaking, news channel on YouTube called Geopolitics Profonde. Geopolitics Profonde is actually a channel dedicated to in-depth analysis and discussion of geopolitical issues, with a particular focus on current international conflicts, strategic global developments, and the broader implication for nations and regions. The channel features interviews with experts, detailed reviews of geopolitical events, and commentary that often challenges mainstream media narratives. Okay, so they cut through the lies. This is what it means. Okay, so this is why this channel offers related content such as newsletter reviews and discussions on financial sovereignty and autonomy, positioning itself as an alternative source for geopolitical insights with a distinct and often critical perspective on Western policies and global power dynamics. Okay, so this is why I wanted to share that interview with you guys in the French speaking side. Okay, so this interview with Jacques Baud is interesting because Jacques Baud is a former NATO colonel and a seasoned analyst of security and intelligence. He offers often insights and intimate an insightful perspective on French and European international relations. Jacques Baud experience grounded in both strategic, military, and diplomatic arenas, and I would explain in more details what is his background, in a few minutes. He sheds light on the complexities, challenges, and evolving dynamics within Europe. Okay, specifically in Europe. So he's actually expanding his view about America, especially in relation to United States and naturally Russia. So his analysis revealed often overlooked nuances. So similarly to John Mersheimer, that has a certain level of capability to go in between the different elements that are used as an element of reflection and see and read between the lines. And this is something that the ability to see these nuances is actually extremely critical in my view to understand what's happening, and Jacques Baud has that capability. So he understands aussi sorry, I used some French in between, but he understands as well the shifting balance of power and the cultural political factors shaping decisions on the continent. So this is actually extremely rare to see that. For audiences in North America, this interview provides a valuable behind-the-scene understanding of Europe's geopolitical posture and internal challenges, enriching their appreciation of transatlantic relations beyond typical mainstream narratives. So it goes way beyond what you generally see in the mainstream media. Okay, so now we're going to start with the introduction of. everyone, let's move into the introduction of who is Jacques Baud, and then we'll turn into the core of the interview. So Jacques Baud is a Swiss former colonel in the Swiss Strategic Intelligence Service and an expert in security policy and intelligence. He's also known as a former NATO policy advisor and author because he wrote several books about the Ukraine and Russian war, having written extensively on intelligence, terrorism, and warfare, including the as I was saying, the Ukrainian conflict. His analysis are often critical of Western narratives, emphasizing geopolitical realities and the limits of Western strategies. Now, if we continue into the core of the analysis, okay? So it's about an hour-long, interview, but it was difficult to cover the entirety of the interview. But what I wanted to do is to reflect on what was the core of his message and his analysis on the Geopolitics Profonde interview. Okay, so let's start now with the geopolitical realignment. Jacques Baud opens by observing that recent developments, the Alaska summit between Trump and Putin, and the meetings in Washington and Zelensky and European leaders mark a major turning point. The first striking fact, he says, is a demonstration of American determination. Donald Trump wants to achieve a result and to focus American efforts on domestic economic reconstruction to become a great country again. That was part of his, message during his campaign. Trump's main adversary is China. So from the American strategic viewpoint, two objectives emerge: rebuilding domestic industry, and secondly, counter China, notably by isolating Beijing, even using the Taiwan card. So now let's continue on America's strategic shift and exit from Ukraine. For Jacques Baud, this means the United States wants to disengage from other conflicts, including Ukraine. Donald Trump, he says, approaches this as a deal maker. He tries to resolve conflict through deals, or more accurately, he buys deals. Trump's approach is to threaten, to cut or offer financing as leverage. The ultimate goal is to exit the Ukrainian conflict, not by slamming the door, so to speak, but as a peacemaker. Jacques Baud notes pointedly that the White House even posted an official petition for Trump's Nobel Peace Prize, underlining a carefully prepared communication strategy. To continue, Russia returns, Europe sidelined. Jacques Baud continues, emphasizing the second point. The second point is about Russia's return as a superpower. Since 2022, Western policy has been trying to isolate Russia, politically, economically, and diplomatically. Trump's dialogue with Russia breaks this taboo, actually. Jacques Baud recalls that when Trump, as early as February, suggested dialogue with Moscow, both Europe and Zelensky opposed any contact with Russia. The very fact that the US now talks directly to Russia, culminating in a Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, with direct contacts at the diplomatic level, represent a paradigm shift. For Jacques Baud, the Americans have rebuilt diplomatic channels initially severed, and we are now witnessing their culmination at the highest level. Now, Europe's diplomatic irrelevance. The conversation moves on to the irrelevance of Europe on the diplomatic stage. Jacques Baud discusses the Washington meeting. The Europeans were not even officially invited or welcomed by Trump, only received by the chief of protocol, while Zelensky himself was received by the American president. The message, says Jacques Baud, is clear. Trump has more respect for Moscow than for Brussels. Despite Europe's economic weight, its geopolitical role is minimal and its diplomacy is null. Jacques Baud asserts is led by incompetent figures, including Ursula von der Leyen, Emmanuel Macron, and all the rest, and he labels them as ideologues without charisma or imagination. The failure to influence conflict outcomes. Jacques Baud explained that the big event is both the American determination to get out of the Ukrainian conflict and the return of Russia as the West's main interlocutor. Trump, he argues, wants to deal directly with Putin, not be encumbered by European leaders that are, ideologues, who, in his view, are dispensable, they are not relevant. The Europeans, meanwhile, have lost their ability to influence major conflicts, not only in Ukraine, but also in a crisis like Israel and Palestine, Iran, and also the Armenian-Azerbaijan conflicts. Media and double standards. Reflecting on roundtable at the recent White House meeting, Jacques Baud notes European officials spoke at length of Ukrainian children allegedly abducted by Russians, while ignoring the tens of thousands of children killed in Gaza. A double standard, says Jacques Baud, that Trump immediately shut down by stating the room was there for diplomacy and peace, not for propaganda. Now, Trump's character and American politic culture. According to Jacques Baud, Donald Trump may not be a great strategist, but he possesses emotional intelligence, a strong sense of people and respect for those who stand up to him. Americans, Jacques Baud observes, Americans typically have much more respect for those who push back than for people who say just yes men. The opposite of French culture, which Jacques Baud describes for hierarchical, with intelligence seen as concentrated at the top and the rest expected to obey only. Trump's conduct at the White House, Jacques Baud notes, was actually very telling. European leaders appeared as doormats around the table, while Trump, though polite, showed clear contempt for those who differ. Putin's playbook, no ceasefire, a permanent peace. Returning to Russia, Jacques Baud addresses the report of new exchanges between Trump and Putin, aiming to prepare a direct meeting between Zelensky and Putin, to be followed by a three-way meeting, or a three-way summit. Once again, Putin's terms are firm. He's not seeking a temporary truce, a ceasefire, but a long-term security architecture. He demands not only for territorial concessions from Ukraine, but permanent neutralization, not only a non-NATO Ukraine, but one whose military is limited and cannot be a regional threat to Russia, going beyond any currently acceptable European or Ukrainian plans. The Alaska Summit, Putin's real motive. Jacques Baud firmly asserts that the Alaska Summit was not about negotiating the peace terms itself. Instead, the objective was for Putin to directly present his position to Trump without intermediaries, ensuring then a clear understanding of Russia's non-negotiable stances and the actual scope for negotiation. Trump wanted this direct download from Putin so as to know exactly what was possible and not negotiable. So this is the end of the resume. So I hope you liked it, and please don't hesitate to share. The goal is not to make some views, because as I said on multiple occasions, my channel is not made for that. My channel is made to share information and not to make views. So if it makes views, it's good, because it means that people can see this content that is not necessarily seen by the English community. So please share. do subscribe if you want to see some more videos like this, and I will make some more in the near future, and I will do some other content. As you can see in French, I'm doing much more content regarding Missing 411 and also Sasquatch and Skinwalker Ranch in Portlock, Alaska. So please bear with me and please share.